poetry, radio, verse. It's all about the D. Desire, discipline, dedication. I know what you were thinking, savages, but that ain't it. Let's go. From Chicago, Illinois, the one and only Mr. Blaq Ice.
I was blessed with the gift of being an entertainer. Art is free, man. You can change lives, and you can save lives.
Welcome, welcome, and welcome. I am James Hamilton, and this is Versed, your home for poetry on the radio. We are coming to you, as always, from the hub of Midwest poetry, the WBOM full-service radio studios located in the basement of the Mendelssohn Center for the Performing Arts in Rockford, Illinois. Before I go any further, I have a message for listeners of our show. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, it would be hard for me to express without touching each and every one of you, because I am a hugger. I'm a hugger.
True story.
How appreciative I am of every one of you who took the time to tune in to season 1 of our show, whether you did it on WBOM Full Service Radio or you did it on my YouTube channel at James Hamilton Poet. Listen, I am rarely held speechless. Brevity is not my strong suit. But the comments and support cultivated something inside of me that I hope carries through this next season in the form of energy and love and gratitude to all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now we're going to start off with a brand spanking new season of poetry, art, music, creativity, and we are going to do so in a huge way. But before I get to our guest, let's acknowledge the souls we have in the studio, our regular verse team returning for season 2. First of all, my co-host, confident, friend, wingman, Andy to my Conan, Robin to my Howard. We have producer and certified cultural icon.
Oh,
It's
got
a step
the promotion.
Up.
I
It's a
got
step
the promotion.
Up. Step up. Paul Savvy Magoo Goddard, how you doing?
I am excited to be here. I'm going to school because last season was a year of graduate school in spoken word and poetry, and I am so excited. The lineup you have for this season, I am going to learn so much, and I am so excited for today's guest. I can't even begin to tell you.
Don't spill the beans yet.
I
Don't
didn't.
spill the beans yet. Keep the beans in the can, because we got another person to announce. We have Rachel, the engineer, in the studio. 2 E's, as always. I figure we have listeners, they can't see that I put up 2 fingers when I do that, but she
Correct.
does have 2 E's.
So you weren't flipping her off. You were actually showing the E's.
Totally different fingers, I
Got
think.
it. Okay.
Right? Yeah, I'm hoping anyway. Listen, Rachel is the party responsible for making our little show sound as good as it did last season, just so you know. She's over there on the keys. Do you want to say hi?
I'm muted.
She's muted. So if you heard that, great. Otherwise, we're still good. We're still good. All right, let's get to the guest for this, the maiden voyage of Versed here in season 2. I told you on social media this morning and all week, and I think I said it when we started, but I'm not sure. Today is going to be hot. In fact, regular listeners know that we usually have 2 guests on the show, but this season we're going to start out a little differently. Our first guest of the season is so huge, so huge, we wanted to have the spotlight shine solely on him. I don't think it would be an understatement if I were to say that our guest is at least partially responsible for the art of spoken word poetry being what it is today. Definitely in northern Illinois, in the Chicago area, which is
Midwest, the entire Midwest.
We could talk about it being the birthplace of spoken word, definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely. So without further fanfare, please join me, verse listeners, in welcoming from Chicago, Illinois, the one and only Mr. Blaq Ice.
Peace and blessings, man. I am so just happy and honored to be here amongst you legendary brothers at this interview, man. I've been waiting for this. This has been a long time coming.
It has, and thank you for taking the time to come on the show and join the Versed family. Whether, well, you wouldn't know it because you're on. Once you're here, you can feel free to stop at any time. You know, we'll let you know
Correct.
we're recording. You want to pop in, you just rap on the door sometime and come in and join whatever's going on, because that's how we are. We're a family here at Versed. You'll get a flavor for that as we go through the show here, because we're going to reference some of the poets that we had on last season, and we're going to talk about some of the things that that we started, continue those conversations.
Bringing poetry to the radio.
There you go.
Poetry to the radio. Yeah. So I usually don't do bios. You artists know yourselves better than anybody knows you. So please tell Verse listeners what they need to know about Blaq Ice.
Well, first of all, I'm a husband, I'm a father, and I'm a servant of the people. You know, God has blessed me with certain gifts and talents, and with those gifts and talents come responsibility. So the art, I fell in love with it at a very early age when it comes to what we call rap, which is rhythm and poetry. I fell in love with that around the age of 14, but even before that, I was writing poetry. My mom, who is a Jehovah's Witness, she used to bring these books home, my book of Bible stories, and You Can Live Forever in Paradise on Earth, and I would look at these books and all these beautiful illustrations in the book, and I would begin to write poetry about the illustrations in the book. But like I said, around 1985, I fell in love with hip hop. There was a movie that came out called Crush Groove.
Oh.
And, you know, and I was like, man, you mean to tell me that I can take the poetry and the words that I'm writing and add music to it and begin to rhyme with it and make it a song? This is just beautiful. And that's when I started my hip hop career or rapping career in 1985. And as I began to attend Simeon High School, and shout out to Derrick Rose, my Simeon alumni. He's younger than me, but they retired his jersey yesterday. But it was at Simeon High School that these things began to be birthed inside of me. I began to stand in front of audiences of people and perform, and that fear that I had when I first started, it began to leave the more I performed. So, man, I just wanted to start off with that. It is so much more just in the spoken word career, but the hip hop career spanned from 1985 to like 2015.
So what I'm hearing there is that, you know, it's almost like there's a catharsis there for you. You said you started performing,
Yes.
and the more you did it, the better you felt. And a lot of artists that have been on the show, that's one of the first things that they say,
Yes.
is how the art for them, or the purveying, whether it's performing or writing, is cathartic. It's healing for them.
Yes, and you know, I had to learn some things, and so I teach now artist development classes for different artists. But when I went on stage back then, although my stage name was called Ice Cold, and then later, because I'm a lover of WWE, which back then it was WWF, and my favorite wrestler was The Ultimate Warrior, so it was Ice Cold, The Ultimate Warrior. That was my stage name in high school. But many times in the beginning and early stages of my career, I would take DeAndre up on stage, and I wouldn't take Ice Cold up on stage. So DeAndre is a little bit different from Ice Cold, and today DeAndre is different from Blaq Ice. And so when I tell people now about their fear, leave yourself in the seat. And when you go up on stage, take that personality, and that personality is normally a magnified version of yourself. It's your boldness times 10. It's your confidence times 10. And sometimes it's your arrogance times 10. So when you take that character up on stage, then you can be a little bit more freer and more exposed and what we call naked in artistry, more so than you would as just your personal self going on stage.
Interesting. Wow. Would you say coming up, you were a history buff?
You know, history from the perspective of the journey of my people, from that level. As far as the artistry is concerned, I love the musicians and the artistry. I love the Motown artists. I love the funk artists of the 80s, some of the disco artists of the 70s. And I wasn't blessed with the voice to sing, but I was blessed with the gift of being an entertainer and an artist. So I could hear music, being a DJ now, you know, I could hear the music. I can hear when the music shifted and changed, and I incorporate all those things. And you would hear some of those things in my performance on Versed when I did the spoken word to music, as you would hear that coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, definitely. And then the piece that I was thinking about, I think I said I probably looked at it like 50 times, was Black
Yes.
Heroes Matter.
Yes.
And that, you know, you're talking about the history of your people, but not only that, but the history of Chicago. And when I think of Black Ice, I think of Chicago.
Yes.
I do. I think of Chicago. I mean, I think it's Italian beef. It is deep dish pizza.
That's right.
And it is Black Ice. Doing
Wow.
Wow,
straight up.
that's a blessing. I'm gonna have to definitely
That's iconic.
edit out that excerpt right there.
Yeah. Can
And
you
it-
talk a little bit about what?
Yes.
You know how you put that piece together.
So in the early 2000, around the time of COVID, it was around like 2020. There was a group of people that were organized to honor Chicago's founder, Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable. The way we wanted to honor him was we wanted him to have a major street, and we wanted him to have a statue in the city that he founded. So the city of Chicago said, well, we got a bust of him about this big on a corner
He's
somewhere.
holding his hands
somewhere-
about 2 feet apart.
somewhere downtown, but there's no street. Ironically, there were streets named after presidents who owned slaves, presidents who, you know, did some other things. And I was like, well, if we can have presidents who owned slaves and raped women and different things of that sort, then why can't we have a street named after Chicago's founder? So we approached the city council. We had 2 sponsors, Alderman David Moore and Alderman Sophia King, and it was led by Ephraim Martin. He led the Black Heroes Matter movement. And so we fought against the mayor, we fought against the city council, and I figured that the movement needed a theme song, just like Marvin Gaye did What's Going On during the, you know, all that movement. So I said, if I write the theme song now, when we finally get this success, this theme song is going to take me far. So I'm always like progressive thinking in the future. So I wrote the history of Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable from the time that his grandparents arrived in Saint Domingo, which is called Haiti today, all the way up to Chicago in 2000, at that time, 2021. And needless to say that I was a part of that history, the only poet, the only artist that was a part of that history that was able to rename the most famous street in Chicago, Lakeshore Drive, to Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable Lakeshore Drive. Black Heroes Matter. I am the founder of Chicago. My name is Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable. I come from a royal bloodline. My ancestors were kings, queens, and prophets. From Israelite to African Haitian slave. Life of my people was very modest. My grandparents landed on the shores of Saint Domingue by way of slave ships. They gave birth to my mom, who gave birth to me around 1746. My father, Point du Sable, was a Frenchman. My mother, Susanna, a slave lady. My people were slaves under the French when Saint Domingue became Haiti. But thanks to a 13-year revolt and war led by Toussaint Louverture, Haiti would gain its independence in 1804, but I digress. I soon would leave the only home I knew. I was a skilled mariner who traveled the seas by way of ships. From my father, I learned the way of politics and sailed from Haiti to New Orleans around 1766. There I became friends with many of the native tribes. They taught me the ways of the land, how to develop it, how to farm it, and how to get by. And when beef among native tribes begin to increase, blessed are the peacemakers, for I kept the peace. And among the native tribes, I met a beautiful girl named Kitsihawa, and she became my wife. She gave birth to Jean Jr. in 1773, and a daughter, Suzanne, who I named after my mom who died. She was born 2 years later, in 1775. Shortly thereafter, I was approached by the British to fight. But I refused to fight in the Revolutionary War. My God had something much more greater for me in store. I would take my family and leave New Orleans to settle in an unsettled land to build something new. A place with no slaves, no masters, not ruled by any foreign power. This place was called East Chicago. And in case you didn't know, East Chicago later became known as Chicago. I developed a successful trade post there. Over 800 acres of swampland. I was a skilled interpreter, skilled in English, Spanish, Haitian, Creole, and many of the native languages. The Europeans would travel to my trade posts to buy their fur. So when you gaze upon the Chicago River, see me. When you travel down DuSable Lakeshore Drive, see the harbors and that beautiful skyline, see me. I am the father of Chicago. Not that I was the first one here, but I was the first to arrive, establish trade. I had no slaves. I am the founder of Chicago. My name is Jean-Baptiste Point DuSable. Black heroes matter. So it's not just a poem, it's not just Chicago history or Black history, but it is history in the making.
Well, Black history is American history.
There you go.
People forget that.
There you go.
Full stop.
There you go.
Right. Full stop.
And, to be a part of that history, to have my name in the books that, here's a poet who marched on the streets, who went to city council,
Right.
who stood up to the politicians and a part of a major group to get the success and get things done. This is something that I can pass down to generations to come.
So, when I think of Chicago, I think, quintessentially Chicago, in line with the great food that comes from there, the great sports.
You didn't mention Chicago hot dogs.
Well, you're right, I didn't. I went with pizza.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You ever seen what falls into an industrial sausage factory?
No,
Machine?
okay, never mind.
Skip the hot dog.
We're talking Upton Sinclair in the
Definitely.
jungle.
You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, you know it. So part of it is that, that is not the first time, or not the only time, I should say, that you went to the city of Chicago and got something done. We've got
Yes.
Spoken Word Day, right?
Yes, so before Spoken Word Month,
Right.
which is honored in the month of September, before that, I petitioned Alderman David Moore, and I said, Chicago doesn't have a poet laureate. Atlanta has one, and other cities, great cities, have one. We need a Chicago poet laureate. And he was like, oh, okay, well, what exactly is that, and what does it mean? And I began to explain to him that it's a representative in the literary form for the city in which that poet laureate is representing.
Correct.
So after 2 years of lobbying for a poet laureate, which Chicago did not have one, I was able to, with the support of Alderman David Moore, who sponsored the legislation, get a Chicago poet laureate for the city of Chicago. So now let's jump to Spoken Word Month. I wasn't satisfied with just that. I wasn't satisfied with just renaming Lakeshore Drive. Now let's go ahead and get a month for spoken word. Now here it is that the Spoken Word Awards normally fall Labor Day weekend, which is normally in the month of September, the beginning of September. So I'm like, well, poetry has a month, the month of April. Why don't spoken word have a month? So I lobbied the city of Chicago alderman. I lobbied the county of Cook County Commissioner Bill Lowry. I lobbied the state senator Willie Preston, and we were able to get it done. There is legislation on the books now, not only the state of Illinois, which covers Chicago and covers the county of Cook, but we got it with the county of Cook as well, that September is now recognized as Spoken Word Month in the state of Illinois.
Beautiful.
I mean, yeah. And then you've also done some work with the Youth Poet Laureate in Chicago.
Yes. Youth Poet Laureate and the, well, not the Youth Poet Laureate, but the first inaugural Poet Laureate, which is Avery Young.
Right.
Yep, Avery Young. And I was happy that although my name was not credited in the record books as helping to establish the Chicago Poet Laureate, that he realized it and recognized it and reached out to me to be a part of some of the projects that he had worked on.
So, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, you're talking about spoken word, and the first poetry slam was at the Green Mill in Chicago.
There you go.
So the history of poetry out loud goes way back, and it's all about Chicago. It all started there.
Yes.
So interesting, you mentioned that National Poetry Month is in April, National Spoken Word Month is in September.
That is correct.
We have had a debate on this show.
Oh, no.
75% of the shows last season, we talked about the difference between page and stage.
I love it.
Yeah. Tell me your opinion on that.
As one who teaches artist development, it is often asked, well, what's the difference between spoken word and poetry? And before I go into that, I want to shout out Mark Kelly, who's the inventor of slam poetry, who actually hosts at the Green Mill, been hosting there forever, and is the founder of slam poetry. So shout out again to Mark Kelly.
Yeah, we're taking a field trip in there from Rockford.
Yes, definitely. Yes. So when I'm teaching artists who do poetry, I always ask them, do you want to read poetry? Do you want to recite poetry? Or do you want to perform poetry? Those are three different things, because there will be people who just stand there and recite. Mm-hmm. You know, Maya Angelou did it very good, but she wasn't categorized as a spoken word artist, although she recited poetry.
At a presidential inauguration, no less.
Absolutely. And so when you get into spoken word is performance poetry. If you go to a stage play, it's theatrical. So reading is one form, reciting is another form, but performing it is another form. And then I've taken it to the entertainment level, like the band behind you. You get the vocalist singing, you get the drummers going, and I even have dancers performing behind me, you know, because I've taken the poetry and put it over house music, Chicago house music, or put it over Chicago stepping music. So we can't lock our art genre inside of this box. They tried to do it to hip hop. They tried to put it inside of a box. But hip hop is in Tokyo, it's in Japan, it's in the Netherlands, it's in everywhere. And so art is free, man. It's colorless, it's unreligious, it's unpolitical, it's just free.
Couldn't have said it any better.
Absolutely.
One question. Poetry and spoken word, separate art forms or different versions of the same art form?
So poetry is the tree.
Oh.
Spoken word is a branch.
Okay.
Hip hop or rap is a branch, but the root and the tree is poetry.
Oh, beautiful.
Interesting.
How poetically put.
So we'll go back in time a little bit. We're going to go back to like the mid 90s. We got Def Poetry Jam,
yes.
You know, was coming up. And that style started in Chicago, right? And it's still going strong today. That type of rhythm, cadence, meter, what I call the Chicago sound.
Well, what you really had, James, is a bunch of rappers who didn't want to rap no more, but they wanted to do poetry or this new genre called spoken word. So this rhythmic form of performing poetry came from the rhythmic form of rapping. That's why you see most spoken word artists rhyme. Now, when you get into most forms of poetry in non-rural or urban areas, poetry is not necessarily rhyming. It's a form of expression. But the rhyming came into play in these urban communities with these people like myself who used to be a rapper. We still call ourselves MCs. But that's where that style came from. A bunch of people who used to rap back in the day, they no longer rap. They're not confined by bars.
Ooh, nice. We had a poet on. He's a Green Bay poet, but he came up in Chicago last season. Actually, he was on with iInspiration, our Wisconsin poet. Now, I want to get to poet.
I was listening to that yesterday.
Yeah, he so RR
right.
TUT, the poetic EMC, and he had a history with Blaq Pirate Militia.
Correct.
You familiar with those guys back in the night? No? Okay.
No.
All right, so somebody should listen to episode 6 of last season out there that's listening
You're
now.
giving plugs, self-friend,
Yep.
plugs here.
We'll snip that string off, and we'll just go back to so the cadence that what I call the Chicago sound was going on. It was popular. He said, I've heard more than one rapper from that genre say the reason exactly what you said. They went into that poetry because they didn't want to rap anymore. I've heard them say the music was limiting.
Yeah, when the music began to change, especially for people like me who came into the art genre of hip hop or rapping in 1985. The music was much more conscious, and it was much more about partying and those type of things. But when gangster rap kind of got a hold of it, the style began to change a little bit more, and then most of the executives began to shy away from promoting positive hip hop or positive rap. It was about the killing. It was about I shoot you. It's about I do this and do that, and how many women that they have, or cars, or Bentleys, or whatever the case might be. So it began to be a turnoff for those of us who are the purist when it comes to hip hop. And so now trap music is the music, and it's no ironic that they call it trap, because it's really trapping the minds of the listeners. The way you control the people is through words and through sound. Those things are spiritual. Now, I'm not a religious guy at all, but I'm a spiritual guy. Because anytime my words can make someone cry without me physically touching them, then that's spirit. Or a sound could move you to be happy or to be sad just by listening to the sound. That's spiritual. So what we do comes from a spiritual vein, and if it is operated correctly, you can change lives and you can save lives.
Beautiful.
Most definitely. It's funny because listeners of Verse know that the place that we hang out in Rockford here is the Blue Box, right? Which is, AKA Savvy Magoo's house. But the poets hang out. And just yesterday, we were sitting there with 3 other poets, or the day before yesterday with 3 other poets. And Paul had mentioned to me about how spiritual all of us are.
Well, that's one of the things that happens. I have spent a lot of time. I'm more of a promoter. I'm a poet. I spend a lot of time on the phone with poets or in conversation with poets. And one thing they always do, I hear a lot of poetry, right? A lot of spoken word. I love that. I'm a fan. But the other thing is they always end up talking about spirituality. And sure enough, and they all have different flavors, but it's rich. And I find that profound, and that's a part of my life. So that's what we were talking about yesterday. Now you've brought it up already, this close to the beginning of this episode.
Now see, James, yourself, and myself, that's where the feminine aspect of what we do as artists comes into play, because we're not women, but we have birthed children in our poems. Wow. When we have penned something new that came from the womb of our mind and said, this is our baby. This is the newest baby. And you know how it is when you have that newborn baby. You got your oldest. Your first is always going to be special to you. Your firstborn. I remember my first poem. I'm pretty sure you remember your first poem that really got out there and took flight and became successful. I only had 2 poems for like the first 2 years of my spoken word career. That was Why, and that was You, Me, and He. Those were the first 2. Something on the political side, conscious side, and something on the relationship side. I felt like I'd get paid by these 2 for a little while, right? But I just read God Works in Mysterious Ways on the show, and you're going to hear that.
Beautiful.
That was the latest poem that I've birthed into existence. And I get inspired and excited about it just to read it because it's a newborn. So I just wanted to mention that as well.
Yeah, definitely. So You know, we talked a little bit about you performing as a rap artist, and then segue right up to the newest piece that you just did. What has your, because we like to talk about creative process on the show. We like to go inside the artist, inside what happens in our heads, hearts, and minds. What was your creative process like in the beginning, and how has it changed to when you wrote that most recent piece, or has it?
Well, again, my creative process began in 1985. And I've always written in verses, 4 lines with the second and fourth line rhyming. Skip a space, 4 lines, skip a space, verses or whatever, or stanzas as they would call it. But the content of the things that I write are birthed out of my personal experiences. So, of course, my personal experiences have changed. So, of course, the things that I'm talking about today are not the things that I'm talking about yesterday. My writing style is the same. But my consciousness, my spirituality, and the fact that I don't write for other artists. There are some artists who write for other artists, so when they get to the open mic, they can ooh and ah the other artists that are in the audience. It's almost like preaching to the choir, right?
Right.
I am more interested in that everyday working 9 to 5 individual who are coming out maybe for the first time to an open mic poetry set, and they're looking to be fed.
Wow.
And so I want to write something of substance versus how many times I can rhyme in one verse, or how much wordplay that I can give to this or to that. That's not my age group. I'm beyond that part. And to each his own. I'm not even knocking the people who do those type of things, but just to answer your question, my style has developed in my own personal experiences and my maturity. That's how it has developed.
I sat and listened to you record all the pieces that you did today, and I've watched Black Heroes Matter on YouTube like 50 times at least. I have. And I consider what you do, and to some extent what I do, word music. Yeah, and I think that I agree with you. I've said it before. I said it's easy for me to do that because when I write for me.
Yes.
And in order to do that, I know how I call them installing performance aspects and things like that. I'll write something first because, let's face it, we're writers at heart. Content is what matters. And then to put a little bit of polish on it, I believe is easier to do when I'm writing for me. People that write for other people, great. That's just not who I am.
And I was going to comment on that, and this is a term that you may not have heard before, but I am also a bisexual writer.
Oh, okay.
So I write both from female perspective when I'm writing for female artists.
Okay.
And of course, I write from male perspective when I'm talking about my own experience. So you may have seen me do a poem called Wonder Woman before. And that was actually written for a woman. My mentor, Strawberry Taylor, who passed away, I first wrote it for Lovely Lyricists, and then she wasn't active at the time, and I gave it to her. And then Strawberry passed away, God bless her soul. And then I told my wife, I said, here, take this. This is all you need. This will last you about for 5 years, this Wonder Woman poem. And she wasn't taking it as serious as I thought she would or should take it. So I changed the lyrics from I am Wonder Woman to you are Wonder Woman. Not the fictional character we see on the cartoons, although some of you have been called in Amazon. You could be a mom of 4 boys, the calm in the midst of the storm and the noise, but you are Wonder Woman. But at first it was saying, I am Wonder Woman. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I write from both perspectives as well. I just try to put myself in the shoes of a woman and write from my mom's perspective, my sister's perspective, and the things that I've seen from them.
I like how you put how you said bisexual writer. So another piece that he did is called Elevator. I've got another story about that. But, well, interestingly enough, so the Poet Radio, Brother O has a show. I was a feature on there like a week and a half ago or recently. And Shane Train, who is a versed alumni.
Hardest working poet in rock.
Yeah, he's something else. He came on, did a piece called Elevator, which I prompted. He asked me, James, what do you want to hear? I said, do Elevator. because I had just seen him a
Right.
couple nights
Right.
before in Milwaukee. So anyway, and then Ice came on and did his piece called Elevator,
Beautiful.
which was really cool. And at that point, I didn't know that he had it.
It
I
just
was like,
happened.
It just happened. It happened organically, and it was a beautiful thing. But I thought about this when you read it that night on the radio, and then when you did it in the studio today. So the people are in the elevator, and there's one line in there where you say, and that they meet their boyfriend. Mm-hmm. And I had my paradigm of that piece when you were reading it, that it was me in the elevator, a man in the elevator, and instead I meant to ask you about it and say, how is it? But then when you said you write bisexually, I get it. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman listening to that poem,
Right.
you're going to relate.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
And that poem was actually birthed out of a conversation that I had with one of our poet members, Black Beauty. And she was talking about how she had to go into the system as a child, like orphan as a child.
Oh, yeah.
She watched her mother die in front of her when she was younger and everything like that. So when I wrote the poem, I'm writing it as if I was Black Beauty. And as if, so from that, so I'm glad that you caught that, because that's exactly where that poem, The Elevator, was birthed out of. This is one of my brother James Hamilton's favorite Black Ice pieces. The name of this poem is called The Elevator. There's this elevator, right? It's full of people. Some family, some friends, some strangers, but you're all in the basement. The basement represents that brand new idea that was blessed to be manifested in your mind, but by the time you share your idea with the 10 people standing in the elevator next to you, some of them get the hell off before the door even closes. Sort of like those so-called friends. The ones who you thought would be there through thick and thin down to the end didn't even make it to the first floor. The door closes. The elevator rises. Much to your surprise, you're making progress. The bell rings, you're at the first floor. The door opens, and guess what happens next? Those childhood friends, well, they got goals of their own. Time for you to be strong, because you're going to lose some of these friends during this ride and feel alone. But as they walk out, a few more friends walk in. You started off with 10, but now you're down to 8. Now, one of the new friends who just walked in pressed floor 2. So you know what that means. The next time the elevator door opens, they'll be going too. But before they left, they introduced you to one of their friends who became your friend. Then y'all became close like kin. The door opens at floor 2. You lose a few, but one man walks in, and he becomes your boyfriend. And now we're down to 7. Now only 4 out of the 7 are the original occupants that you begin with. In all, there were 2 strangers, one cousin, your mom, one friend, one new friend, and a boyfriend. Now the elevator passes floor 3. Seems like life is finally looking up. But just as soon as you get comfortable, you're at the 4th floor and the door opens up. You're staring death right in the face. Quickly you step back, he reaches in his arm and unexpectedly takes your mom. Everyone in the elevator consoles you. But this takes an emotional toll on you and your relationship. Everything you ever believed in or ever knew about is in doubt. You become so emotionally cold that right before the doors close, your boyfriend walks out. What's to expect by floor 5? Now, what just happened on the 4th floor was a game changer. But before floor 5 arrives, you will lose one of those strangers. But before he leaves, he whispers to you, "There's something that I hope that you see." She said, "What's that?" That God wants you to go through everything that you're going through in order for you to get to where it is he wants you to be. He leaves. 4 remains. Only 1 more floor to go. But between the 5th and the 6th floor, you notice something. The other stranger reaches around you and hits the stop button. Everything is frozen except you and him. He said, "Okay, I think it's time for us to talk. Now, I've been here since the beginning. And I've seen everything that happened, and not once did you ever acknowledge me. I even gave you words of encouragement when you lost your mommy. I thought at that point you would want to get to know me. Look around. Out of the 10 that you started out with, there's only a few. Now you have a choice or two. You can continue on. Use the experience of what you've been through to help heal, or you could do what you've been thinking, go in that purse and take those pills." She said, "No. I want to live." Well, then you need to learn how to forgive. She now knew who she was talking to. She takes a deep breath and asks for forgiveness, but he said, I'll forgive you when you learn how to forgive yourself. He pressed the button. The bell rings. The door opens at the 6th floor. To your surprise, your ex-boyfriend is standing there, offer you his hand. You turn right around, look at that man right in the face, and smile. Out of the many people that have come into your life, you've already lost the majority. Expect for the ones closest to you to disappoint you, let you down, betray you, but don't you change, stay you. And at the end of the day, when you place your family and friends before God, he will remove them to show you that he's a jealous God, and none should be placed before him. Trust him to know that he will replace everything stolen, restore everything lost, and heal everything broken. In life, you're going to have some knockdowns on the way up, but it's not about how many times you get knocked down. It's about how many times you get back up. The elevator.
I can't tell you how many times, either on this show or just in conversation. Well, and the whole reason for putting the show together and just chopping it up the way that we do casually like that is to get those stories to come out, because all of us have them and we pay attention. So I appreciate it when you write like that, because I get that, the audience wants to be fed. But when we listen to you, when I listen to you, artists listen to you, we're gaining something totally different. And those little things matter to us. They really do.
But that audience issue is a big one. And I was thinking about, we've had an issue in Rockford. When I first started in spoken word, I realized the poetry has found its audience and it's other poets.
Yes.
But that's very limiting.
Yes.
And so we've had a hard time breaking out of our audience simply being other poets and getting a more general audience. But I know, having been to the National Spoken Word Awards, which you host, that you've broken out.
Yes.
But hearing your perspective on for whom you write, now I get it.
Yes.
Because you're not just writing for other poets, for other artists. You're writing for that general audience. And I don't think we're there yet in Rockford.
And that day that you saw me perform that piece at the National Spoken Word Awards, I have gotten maybe about 4 events just to do that one poem. The thing that I have been blessed to master is to not be an artist when I'm not creating. When I'm writing, I'm an artist. When I'm performing on stage, I'm an artist. But when I'm not performing on stage and when I'm not creating, I could be the DJ. I could be the cameraman. I could be the marketer, and I can be the promoter. And I think what happens as artists, sometimes we get chained and locked into being an artist 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, when we need to put on that promoter hat from time to time. And we need to put on that marketing hat from time to time so that we can get those people other than other artists to just imagine if all the artists that came to the open mic brought 10 people each.
Right.
How many people would be there?
Right.
Well, I'll tell you a story. So a mic that we started up in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, University of Stevens Point. My friend Frisia McKee is the poetry professor up there. She started a poetry mic at Create, Portage County. And the first day, there was 4 of us. At the end, I grabbed the mic and I said, next month, we all come back, we bring 2 people. Here we are 14 months in. Last one was second Tuesday last month. We had 75 people in the building.
Nice.
An open mic
Beautiful.
on campus in 0-degree weather in Wisconsin.
Oh, wow.
And consistency is a big part of it, too.
Truth.
Persistency and consistency. I haven't taken a break. I started doing spoken word in 2000. In the month of November 2000, I was running for political office. I was running for alderman in the city of Chicago, 17th Ward alderman. And I had found my pen again. I had found my voice again after my rap career had ended. I haven't taken a break from performing since 2000 as far as spoken word is concerned. But remember, I've been on stage since 1985.
Right.
So for the past 25 years, I've always performed. I've always written. I've always toured. It is that persistency and consistency that has blessed me to be on the level where I am today and on the level where I'm at today. And it's not to say that I'm the best at what I do, because I'm not. I'm not the best writer. I'm not the best performer. I'm not the best entertainer. But I'm the best at all those things in one person. See, if you separate what I do, there'll be a person who writes better than me, performs better than me, that entertains better than me. But you won't find one person that does all of those things better than me.
And you sustain it.
There you go. Now, I'm not saying that there won't be people just as good.
So I do a lot of workshops and things like that. And what I preach to writers coming up is authenticity. Yeah. And I would offer this. Writing, entertaining, hustling, all the things that you do Black Ice better than anyone else could do Black Ice.
There you go.
Well,
yeah. Well, you know, I can only be Black Ice. I sold out the City Winery 2 years in a row.
Wow.
And this is where the stars come, you know, on the second half of their career. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
People that we idolized back in the day and admired back in the day, this is where they come. And I did an 1 and 40-minute concert on stage as a poet.
Wow.
And kept the attention of the audience, and I really wasn't done. I had like another piece or two that I had planned to perform, but because of the sake of time, I had to end the concert. But there were other people saying, no, don't go, we want a little bit more. Being on stage for 1 and 45 minutes as a poet.
And still in demand.
It's unheard of.
Unheard of.
It's unheard of.
Beautiful.
Maybe 15 minutes.
15, 20, right. That's the thing
Yeah.
when you talk about features, they're
Right.
15 or 20 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
I had a conversation yesterday with Shane Train, the poet, and we were talking about just that. You know, you've got the creative part where you're writing pieces, but yesterday we probably spent an hour talking about how do you set up your set to play to that crowd. So where you were at with City, the rest of us, we're out there too, trying to get to that point. We're trying to, and to what you had said before, Paul, perform to other people other than poets.
Right.
Yes.
A general audience.
Yeah,
Yes.
not that we don't love poets, and I love
Right.
performing and talking to
Right.
poets. Obviously, we love talking to poets, right? But to be able to hold that crowd.
Well,
is
you know,
tough.
you got to study the artists that accomplish those things. And a lot of times when you go see the greats, right? Number one, they never come out on stage talking, hello, everybody, my name is so-and-so. So when I'm teaching artists about stage performing, I always tell them, your anointing is your poetry. Don't go out on stage and the first thing that they hear from you after the host has given you big, grand introduction like James gave me today, you know, and he said, man, this person is this person is that. And then you come out on stage, how y'all doing tonight? You've just deflated all the energy and the spirit. So open up with something, you know,
Right.
you know, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So what you do first and what you do last is probably going to stick in people's minds the most. After your first piece, then you could do your talking.
Right.
Hey, my name is so-and-so, so-and-so. But another thing that I do also in my concerts is I will always, for the most part, play music that people are familiar with. Number one, music behind the poetry. Where, yeah, just like today, I use music, you know, I didn't produce that music, you know what I'm saying? Somebody else
Right.
produced it, but it's my words, right? But I also will give the audience a chance to sing some songs
Oh, and feel
that
good.
they are familiar with, that feels
Yeah.
good, because the greats did it. You
Right.
know, Marvin Gaye did it, Luther Vandross did it, and I seen a concert where Prince actually did a Michael Jackson song.
Right. Right.
You know, in concert. So you can add those things and add those elements. It just doesn't have to be your poetry, your poetry, your poetry, your poetry, your poetry through your whole set. You can switch it up.
Beautiful.
You can do some things that are creative, get the audience involved, make sure they're paying attention, make sure they're awoke, then go back to your set.
Beautiful.
comedy.
Yeah.
And sometimes that doesn't even involve speaking.
Yeah.
Another Versed family member, my mentor, D.G. Clearing, was at my hosting gig up at Urban Culture and Art Center in Green Bay, and he did a piece where he talked about castrating a chicken. All right, yeah,
Wow.
for whatever. But
Right,
here's
right.
the thing: I get up after his piece, and the crowd give it one more time for and I'm doing my hosting. I got music playing, and the music stopped, and all I did was cross my legs and look at him like that, and the crowd went crazy. And I said, I'm thinking about that chicken. And I waited.
Wow.
It was perfect. And the crazy thing was, I had more people come up to me after I hosted that show a couple of weeks ago and said, "Is that comedy or is that poetry? What is that?" And I said, "It's whatever you think it is, baby. You
Right.
know, it's whatever you think it is."
Right.
But now he has just unlocked another aspect of the entertainment. This is what I call having an entertainment IQ. Knowing what to do and when. That was an audible.
Yeah.
What they call in football, calling an audible. You get to the line of scrimmage, you got something that you had planned to do in your head, a play, but you saw something.
Opportunity.
Let me go this way with it. Let me go that way with it. So having that entertainment IQ allows you to read the audience and cause it to go in a different direction when you see that you can fit that thing in there.
It's the sweet science. It's the sweet science. So whenever I think of that, I can't, because I'm an old boxing
boxing,
fan.
yeah.
Tommy Hearns. Tommy Hearns.
But see, that's why I love this guy right here, because I've watched him over the past, I want to say 2 years. I've seen how he moved. I've seen how he marketed himself.
Correct.
And promoted himself. And from one artist to another, you know, I have admiration for him and what he does. You know, we're totally different artists when it comes to our styles. You know, we both have love for poetry.
Right.
But, you know, to see how he appreciates what I do and to know how I appreciate what he does, you know what I'm saying? This trip, this 2-hour drive coming here today, you know, that's a bonus for me.
Yeah,
Nice.
I appreciate it. Oh, somebody knocking on the
Yeah.
door. We got
Come in.
Pizza Man. What do we got? Come on in. Who? Look at this
No
guy.
way.
What? Oh, look at this guy.
What?
Boy, we got.
Interrupt a little something?
You did.
Oh,
you
my
did, but you know
goodness.
how it is.
We
You
better
know
tell
how
the
it is.
listeners who's here.
Yeah, we could do that. We got Eye Inspiration in the house from Racine, Wisconsin. You know how it works here on Versed. We got standing invitation to people to come in when we're recording.
The alumni.
And say hi.
I heard there was some poetic mayhem going on in the Rockford
And
area.
for the record, Eye Inspiration is a member of the Rockford Poetry family.
Yes.
You know what's crazy? Timing aside, we were just about, I just said we're going to get to Poet in a little bit and talk about Poet.
Yes.
So Blaq Ice is the president, founder of Poet, People
you don't
of
say.
Extraordinary Talent. Well, that's like worldwide, right?
Yes, that's the
Okay,
international.
That's worldwide.
Right.
So we have a little
Started
branch.
in Chicago.
Yes.
Right. We have a little branch in Wisconsin, and Eye Inspiration
Boy,
is
nothing
the...
little. We don't do anything little.
Yeah,
in the
don't
Poet family.
diminish it.
Everything we do, even when it's only a handful of members, we make sure we do it on a big scale.
We had to try really hard to keep his coming a secret. Big Mike was in on it out in the green room. I
don't
just said
punish
we had to
Big
get
Mike.
everybody in on this now, just so as we wanted this to come off just like that.
Man,
So it's
this is a pleasant surprise, my brother.
So we were just going to start talking about Poet as an organization. I want to tell you, brilliant to use the acronym, the Poet, People of Extraordinary Talent. Every time I mention that to somebody, they go, I feel like that should have been there for a long time. And I went, it has been there for a long time. You just didn't know. Yeah.
Wow.
You know,
1990.
I love acronyms. Before we get into Poet, I've always loved acronyms, and even Blaq Ice, BLAQ, believe in the Lord, ask questions. Ice, intelligent, creative, and extraordinary.
Rap, rhythm, and poetry.
Rhythm and
I
poetry.
caught that earlier this
Caught that
year.
early. So I've always loved acronyms. I was that one that was sitting in class in school with the initial dot, initial dot, initial dot, and let me see what I can come up with that. But Poet was an extension of my mentors who came before me. My mentor is Sax Preacher, and he had an organization called TOMA, Temple of Mercy Association. And he was my manager when I was 15 years old. And he would take me into the schools, juvenile detention centers, different things of that sort. And when I saw them doing what they did, I'm like, okay, cool. Well, let me do what they're doing, but put my own remix on there because I'm a rapper at that time. So I wanted to go into schools and do edutainment programs where students wouldn't just have somebody come to them and speak to them like a police officer or a fireman or something like that. We would actually have shows. And in between the performances, we have speakers. So
Beautiful.
that it was birthed that way. So in my senior year in high school, I started the Poet organization, and I was being booked for $700 per school in event to go into the schools and do these programs. Like I said, my mind has always worked those ways, but I'm like, why reinvent the wheel when you could just put a remix on it? You know? So what I'm doing is nothing new. It's just there was no social media back then. There wasn't no Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or nothing like that.
Guerrilla
So,
tactics.
and I also understand and knew that competition is chess. It's not checkers. So how can I compete against James? How can I compete against Inspiration with my art? Art is subjective. You may like him, you may like me. So how do I beat that? How do I make sure that I have no competition? I do that by serving the community. There is no organization like Poet that exists in this world where we put spoken word poetry and we go out there, we feed the hungry, we clothe the poor, we participate in rallies and protests and different things of that sort. So when you come and you say, I want to compete against you, we say, okay, fine. Let's see how many homeless people you can feed this month. Let's see how many juvenile detention centers you can go into and mentor there. Let's see how many schools you can go to. So I always tell people, do not put the art up front. Put the community up front. The community is going to open up the door for the art in places that you can't access as an artist, but you can access it as an activist. You can access it as a community service. So when you see Black Ice doing spoken word in front of 1,000 judges, like I did last year, I didn't get that from being an artist. I got that from being an activist that marched in the street, that wrote a poem called Black Heroes Matter that I would do while we were in the street. And now every time the birthday of Chicago comes up, every time Black History Month comes up, every time DuSabo's birthday come up, guess who they call? The guy who was the activist out there marching, who's also a poet who wrote the poem. Chicago. We had over 1,900 people shot last year. Do your math, that's way more than double the days there are in a year mothers fear their babies not making it home from school. Unemployed brothers ain't got time to look for a job, but got time to be on Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat acting a fool. And these gangs out here ain't following no rules. They ain't got no structure, but they knew exactly what they were doing when they denied parole for Jeff Ford and Larry Hoover. See, there's an old saying, cut off the head and the body would fall. Let this be a lesson to all y'all, and I'm a part of some of these Chicago artists who boast to the world on how their lyrics be so cold. And some of them would get right on stage and talk about how God saved their soul, but won't get out here and go to none of these schools or get out here on none of these streets to even try to save just one soul. And the church, if you're really there to help save lives, then let me make a proposal. If the church you attend ain't involved in community affairs to help save lives, then damn it, stop paying your tithes. And as for the Black Lives Matter movement, you didn't think I was gonna let you off the hook, did you? I believe that Black lives matter, but when a Black lives gonna matter to Black people? March in a hood like you do downtown. Shut down some of these gas stations and liquor stores that have become breeding grounds for our babies to get shot down like you do those businesses on Black Friday downtown. Chicago, home of the Chicago Cubs, home of the Monsters of the Midway, home of Michael Jordan and the Chicago bullshit. See, I don't think you understand. What's going down in Chicago has always been about land, and I recognize the hustle. But did you ever notice that as soon as they tore the projects down, the crime rate in Chicago doubled? Displace these gangs to go live where those gangs live. Let them kill one another. So what if an innocent baby gets killed? We'll go to the funeral and send flowers to the mother. In the meantime, let the land on the south side and the west side become devalued. And ain't no scholar, but in my community right now, they're selling vacant land for just $1. And like the land that the projects used to stand on, they gonna build retail spaces and condos. And while we addicted to Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat, and our babies are addicted to nachos and cheese, and little baby Chucky say cheese, and so what if you a boy, shake your booty for the camera, say cheese? Chicago. We had over 1,900 people shot last year. And we all have a responsibility to come out of the nightclub and get in these streets. Come out of the four walls of the church and get in these streets. Get off of your social media soapbox and get in these streets. We all like to talk, and we love for our voices to be heard. But when are you going to realize that it's your actions that speaks louder than your words? Chicago.
That's all the time we have this week, but if you tune in next week, we will be broadcasting the second half of my conversation with Blaq Ice. And from the basement of the Mendelssohn Center for the Performing Arts and WBOM Full Service Radio, I am James Hamilton signing off until next time. Peace out.